Okay, so Rick and Morty is back, and throughout this video, we're going to be breaking down all the Easter eggs, hidden details, references, and things you missed in Season 6, Episode 6. The entry features dinosaurs returning to Earth and relieving us of our quote-unquote duties. The episode is titled Juricsick Mort, and no prizes for guessing this is a play on Jurassic Park. That franchise was obviously about bringing dinosaurs back too, and after their escape in Fallen Kingdom, they start to make the Earth their home. However, these aliens come back in giant ships that surround the planet. Though the colours are off, the shape of them highly resembles the ones from the movie Arrival. That too was about visitors from space coming to show us a new way to live, and dinos kill us with kindness throughout the entire episode. Now the episode opens with Rick sitting on the couch drinking. You might have noticed last season that he never really had the drool around his mouth and that he'd also stopped burping. This is because Justin Roiland had to drink fizzy drinks in order to do it, and he got to the point where he just didn't want to put his body through that anymore. Season 5 had him drinking barely any alcohol and the drool disappeared, but here it's back. This shows up more at the end of the episode when Rick hosts the Oscars and he smashes up the mic stand, which we learn is actually staged. Anyway, on TV, we get a split-second shot where we see an advert for iHole's cereal. This was a fictional cereal that appeared on Interdimensional Cable 2, which is the 8th episode of Season 2. We discover the rift in space still, and this of course closed out Season 5 whilst also opening up this one. We're told,
"Not gone yet. You remember that, don't you? It's probably important."
And this pays off at the end of the episode with the dinos fixing it. Turns out Rick could have actually fixed portal travel the entire time, but he was just being stubborn, lazy, and his usual dour self. However, this pushes him to finally mend the technology so that it no longer murders those who travel through it. Episode 1 of the season opened with a clear reference to Avengers Endgame, and I was wondering if this arc was also meant to be playing on Tony Stark solving time travel. That might be reaching, however, Marvel does get mentioned at several points in the episode. President Curtis brings up Endgame, and there's also talk about rounding up Ant-Man. Either way, Rick goes to shoot a portal, and the Cthulhu monster from the title sequence immediately pops up. Nice to actually see it in an episode, and it's likely still after them because they stole its baby in the montage. Now from here we cut to Harry Herbst in high school, or HHHS for short. Morty entering the classroom sends everyone into a panic, and they take a similar position to how they would in an active shooter situation. Goldenfold asks if he's been the faculty again, and this is a reference to the 1998 sci-fi movie in which aliens took over teachers at a school. The ships fly in, and they pass the Hollywood sign, Taj Mahal, Eiffel Tower,
New York City,
London, and lastly we go to Egypt. In the background we can see the Sphinx, and I kind of feel like the depiction of this is similar to how it's presented in Wonder Woman 1984. They destroy guns, and are shocked a bit to learn
monkeys went bald?
Anyway, at this point we jump to the title sequence, but for this part of the video, I'm going to ask you to do all that usual YouTuber crap which involves a like, a comment, a subscribe if you please. Might fix the world, and it massively helps us out. Without the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into the rest of the video. Now we cut to the UN and learn their origin story. Some travelled into space to help out other worlds, and they're a bit shocked to learn that the rest of their kind has been wiped out and replaced. The president is once more played by Keith David, and I was wondering if he was returning for the series, as we did have a change up in the sim earlier in the season. They bring up a list of some of the things that humanity has done, and this includes gunpowder, anime body pillows, a reference to Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump in Celebrity Presidents, jazzercise, gluteal implants, Marvel, comment section, which leave a comment, domestic terrorism, Crocs, Amazon Prime, Fluffernutter sandwiches, capitalism, space tourism, Dogecoin, and also social media. They want us to leave most of that behind and go back to making Marvel movies because we love it. Now at this point we get a montage of several newspaper headlines similar to something that you'd see in an old movie. The main one that springs to mind for me is Spider-Man, and Batman did something similar too. It conveys a lot of information, and over the top of this, we can hear someone singing several dinosaur names. This includes Gojirasaurus, which was of course a name that was used as an inspiration for Godzilla. The headlines start off by saying dinos do it all, and we can see the president meeting with a triceratops. Dinos help crops to grow, make food and clothes free, and also supply free alcohol at the bar none. All jobs are eliminated, and every fridge is filled with a stock exchange being wiped out. There's also no war or news even needed because everything is cool. However, this has robbed humanity of the very thing that makes them them. I think this is the Surgeon General now stuck building birdhouses And Tumbleweed, well, a tumbleweed display blows through the Oval Office. Summer doesn't get any views on TikTok for reasons we can't say on YouTube, and we see that the Raptors even do menial things like making sure the recycling goes in the right bin. We also see Beth playing a play on Operation, but instead of a human it's a horse because she's a horse doctor. Everyone has basically become Jerry because they no longer have a purpose. They don't receive any appreciation for what they do, and they simply exist instead of living. Rick is the only one who doesn't care because he was doing what he wanted to do anyway. There have been several thought experiments in the past about what one would do if they could create a perfect life in a simulation, and the results on this have always came out the same way. The majority have stated that they'd rather have challenges put in place to overcome, rather than having everything go their way. We actually saw Jerry stuck inside a simulation like this earlier in the season, and he was trying to win his very first sales pitch. This showed that even people like Jerry crave something to strive for, but now that's been robbed, they've all become him. Now they do go to Jerry for advice, and we see him on his computer with some pretty funny files on it. Firstly, there's a PDF for the ebook on the Kama Sutra for middle-aged men. Next, there's Forgotten Stuff 2, delete this, which is still there, Titanic locations, and Beekeeper's Delight. Cause Jerry's a basic bitch, he's also got a file for pandas falling over, which were basically videos that were popular on YouTube when the platform was first starting out. Sound a bit old there, kids. And also a snake wearing a mini skirt as well as an ugly dog image. He has a copy of his manuscript with several final copies of it, which is a nice touch because everyone is an idiot and they always call stuff that, including me, when I send through 50 changes to our editors. Now we get a split-second shot of what his book says, and though I'm not going to read it all to you, it's basically Jerry introducing how this is his book's introduction, whilst also talking about his family. He mentions that in a way he's a grandfather, and this is possibly referencing Naruto being the child of both Summer and Morty. The title of the manuscript is called Never Trying Never Fails, and though he says he has this attitude, he clearly failed to make a good book. However, it does get published later on by the Dinosaurs, but Jerry never gets the credit for it since they assume the person behind it would be above that. After getting a message from the president, he and Rick meet at the barbecue for ribs. The owner is a blind man that spouts off words of wisdom, and we discover that he's actually an AI because Rick is Westworlding him. He breaks down after eating the food, and this scene is also a reference to House of Cards with Freddy and the president who we don't talk about here. Now Curtis begs Rick to get rid of the dinos so we can go back to fixing the problems we cause, and in exchange for this, Rick wants to host the Oscars. We see this happen at the end of the episode, and in the crowd we catch The Rock, Johnny Depp, Jason Momoa, Morgan Freeman, and who I believe is Ted Danson. There's also Adam Driver, and Rick gets Tom Hanks to shout out his catchphrase Wilson from the movie Castaway. There's also Sacheen Littlefeather, who refused to take an Oscar on behalf of Marlon Brando. In her speech, she slammed Hollywood's depiction of Native Americans, and she sadly passed away early this month on the 2nd of October. There are a couple of extra people in here that I've forgotten the names of, so let me know below if you know them, because I don't recognize them. Now, I think that might be Olivia Wilde next to The Rock, but moving on. The dinos make a shrine to their fallen ancestors, and though Rick says he can help, it turns out they've already done everything that he wants to. They've even perfected his portal gun and upgraded it so the traveler can now see where they're going. Morty says the line, "Clever girl," which is a reference to this from Jurassic Park.
Clever girl.
Rick also talks about being called Laura Dern because he's about to go elbow deep in some dino doo-doo. This too is a nod to Jurassic Park, in which Dern's character Ellie ended up putting up with more crap than you do when I start busting out terrible puns. Now they offer to close the rift, but Rick wants to leave it because it's canonical. They teleport Rick and Morty, which completely disintegrates them, and it seems like they're even more powerful than Rick is. However, he realizes that because they virtue signal so hard, they have to have made some mistakes themselves, and they travel to planets that they've quote-unquote helped. Morty says, life, and this is obviously a reference to Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park saying, life, finds a way. It turns out they've gone extinct on multiple planets because they are pretty useless. One talks about making a series of increasingly bad movies about them being brought back to life in a theme park, and you get that one, you get it. Also, the creator of Westworld, Michael Crichton, created Jurassic Park as well, so that could be why Westworld's brought up earlier. Now, meteors all hit the planet, but the species that survived all assume the giant craters were just hangouts for them. One assumes they love skateboarding, and it turns out they actually do when we see this playing out in the post-credits stinger. The Triceratops also dons a Thug Life sunglasses, and it's a really cool way to end the episode. Rick arrives at their Q&A and says that they've destroyed all the planets they've visited. He mentions how they're also not secretly there to take over, and at this point, I realised the entire thing could also be a reference to V. In case you don't know, this was a series in which a group of apparent humanoids came to Earth in order to help us out, but it was revealed that they were actually lizards that wanted to take over. Turns out the meteors themselves are also sentient life that are natural enemies of the dinos, and they travel out to destroy the worlds that they apparently fix. Got lots of Majora's Mask's vibes from the incoming asteroid, and realising they'd end up destroying the worlds, the dinos are crushed. Kids even turn against them so much that they prefer trains now, and we cut to Anderson Cooper berating them for being pacifists to the point they won't destroy the rock. We also see Joe Rogan, and on his desk can catch a CBD can, as well as his shirt which says DMT Rex. We then go to the Wendy Williams show, and they agree to let us go back to destroying the world ourselves, and we once more get a montage. This includes mentions of Chernobyl, Exxon spilling oil, asbestos in Montana, and type 2 diabetes. Back in Egypt, we see someone holding a sign with Bye Felicia, which is a reference to Friday, and I love how we also see the guy from the first montage stapling his tie back together. Crime is up and happiness is down, but that's just the way we like it. Cut back to the Barbo Q, and the president mentions Molly. Earlier in the episode, Rick said that he only ever contacts him for either help or Molly, and this time it was clearly the latter. After the Oscars, Rick admits the entire thing is scripted, and we see a return of Space Beth. Turns out the dinos are just waiting in space for the meteor to hit, but Rick saves them by sacrificing himself. Well, going to sacrifice himself. He has dino-proofed his tech, and they're now playing virtue signal chicken. However, they save Rick and themselves, but they one-up him by fixing the rift. We see the Citadel destroyed in space beside it, and Rick is gutted they can't milk it into a 3-episode arc. Back home, we see that forest fires are a thing again, and Summer has a new follower who will trade crypto coins for photos of bare toes. In the end, Rick fixes portal travel, and he takes Morty to Boob World. This was mentioned at the start of Rickle Star Rectacular, but they never ended up going. However, they're off, and it's Rick and Morty for 100 years, baby, Rick and Morty! Anyway, that ends the episode, and I've loved the series so far. Been such a good run, and I'm sure you can tell I had a lot of fun with this one too. Let us know your thoughts on it below, and if we missed any Easter eggs, then drop them in the comments. We are in competition right now and giving away 3 copies of Thor Love and Thunder on the 15th of October, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. We pick the comments at random at the end of the month, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, make sure you check out our breakdown of House of the Dragon, which will be linked on screen right now. The latest episode is out, we go over everything in it, top to bottom, so definitely head over there right after this. By the way, thanks for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, let's see you in the next one. Take care, peace.